Bubba. And we're speaking ahead of CPI coming out on Thursday here. Expectations for it to come in at 6.5%. That would be down from the 9.1 we saw in June. Your thoughts on this inflation battle?
Well, I think it's a bunch of hooey. Okay, the inflation is much higher than 6.5 or 9.1. We're somewhere in over the 20% range, and they can give me all the numbers they want. This is the problem with economists and with a Federal Reserve and with a government that's trying to manipulate numbers to make them look better. And we've obviously seen the market somewhat react positively to what's expected. We'll see what comes out tomorrow, but we're much higher than 6.5% inflation. It's not even close. You know, you go to the grocery store, I just saw a loaf of bread, although a brand name, but for $6 for a loaf of bread. You know, although oil has come down, it's going back up again. You know, we have put ourselves in a very dangerous position, and not to mention that with the food shortage impending and with the Federal Reserve raising rates into a recession, which is unprecedented, we're going to see that we're not going to have as much food, and the food shortage is going to grow, not decline.
I know. Have you gone shopping for eggs recently? I don't know if it's better in Vegas, but have you seen
the dozen, which is almost criminal, and they're blaming it on the bird flu, which is again another bunch of crap that is just an excuse to continue to raise prices. You know, there's a lot of shortages. I mean, look, if you look at the commodity space, like the cattle markets, they have to take the cattle to slaughter early because they can't afford to feed them anymore.
Let me ask you this, Bubba. Let's play it out. Why not reveal the real inflation numbers? Why do you think, if, according to your theory, they don't want to show the real inflation?
Well, I mean, it doesn't look good, okay? It doesn't make the administration look good. Now, again, I'm not blaming, as much as I hate this administration, I'm not blaming them for this. This has been going on forever. The numbers we get from government are ridiculous. From the jobs number, any government number is pretty much worthless, because if it's a good number, it'll be revised worse later. If it's a bad number, it'll be revised up later. We don't use the proper data anymore. We're using data as if we were still a manufacturing nation and not a service nation, which is what we are.
So do you think, okay, let's say they come out with the 6.5. Let's continue playing this out. That will give the Fed room to do what next? What do they want to do?
The Fed's going higher no matter what this number is, okay? Look, the Fed is set on, and I believe that with the inversion of the yield curve, okay, you know, you can get 3-month money now at 4.5%. Okay, so I think that with the inversion of the yield curve, with the Federal Reserve, they're going to get these 10-year notes up to 6%. That's what I see in my crystal ball, is that we're going to see 10-year notes at 6%, which means the Fed's got an entire year or 2 more years of raising rates, and they're not stopping anytime soon.
So as we're speaking right now, right, time stamping it to now, S&P, NASDAQ, all up here, all green on the day. Are you surprised that given the market news we're seeing, there's not more selling pressure happening right now?
No, I think that the markets take this as potentially bullish. I think if you go back to Friday's jobs number, okay, which was not a great number, although it was a beat, but it was less than expected. The street, in their own cockeyed way, is taking bad news as good news, because they believe that the Fed is going to bring rates back down again, which I don't believe is possible, and I don't think they can do it, because we are still in a very deep pile, and we have a lot of issues that have to be resolved, and we're nowhere near getting these other issues resolved that all make up this economy that is failing at the moment.
Okay, and just a note about Fed Chair Powell, Bubba. He spoke yesterday saying that getting inflation under control would require measures that are not popular. To quote him, he said, "Restoring price stability when inflation is high can require measures that are not popular in the short term as we raise interest rates to slow the economy. The absence of direct political control over our decisions allows us to take these necessary measures without considering short-term political factors." Now, if we read between the lines, what are these unpopular measures? Is it just higher interest rates, or is there more to the equation here?
Well, I mean, higher rates, and it's that he's a moron. Okay, I mean, you know, he was a common sense guy that came from the business industry, and as soon as you get into that white tower of the Federal Reserve, you become an instant moron and have no clue of how the economy works. You know, we lost 2 million full-time jobs since last May. Okay, so we're in a mess, and raising rates, although the rates should be higher. And the real problem is they do not allow the free market system to work. They're trying to manipulate the system. When you look at the supply side, demand side economy, if business is going to fail, let them fail. And this is the bigger issues that we're seeing. And what they're really doing is they're also protecting a lot of the banks, because they're stymieing the housing market, which means banks aren't lending as much money. And so there's a whole circumstance here that is leading to what I would think would be a major meltdown coming shortly. Let's start from the beginning, okay? If you as an individual look at your own bank balance, look at your outflow of capital, and decide on how you're living. If you're living well, then you're not in a recession. But if you lost your job and you're having trouble paying your bills, then you are in a recession. When you change the rules of what a recession is, I think that people make too much of waiting for some stupid economist to come out and say that we had a recession, when you look in your own bank account and you look at your own spending, if you're in a recession or not. If you're struggling to make your payments. And we've already seen the used car market crash, which was easily predictable. We've seen the housing market starting to collapse. And there's nothing that we can really look forward to that says we're going to be in any bit better shape, because we're not creating any new business and we're destroying jobs. Just you look at how many jobs we've lost in the oil industry by shipping our oil purchasing to Saudi Arabia and Venezuela. Has that changed the carbon footprint? No. You have a bunch of blowhards that are talking about nothing, which makes it even more frustrating as a free market guy, because they're trying to eliminate the free market itself. I believe in this country, so I always am net long equities in my investing, my 401k, my IRA, and I'm always hedged with derivatives. However, as a short-term trader, I am short, and I am getting shorter, and will continue to sell this market, because I have no belief that there's any chance that we will have a big rally versus a big sell-off. And I think the big sell-off is coming. And I still think that, last year I told you I thought 50 to 70%. Well, the NASDAQ got halfway there. The Dow got 30% there. And the S&P got about 35% on the way. And I think they will complete those down moves either this year or early in the next year. But I don't look for this to be a good year. I look for this to be a very rough year for investors and everybody else. But it's also a buying opportunity, because if I use the statistics, the markets go up 8.5% year over year, then I'm buying for the future, which means if you're investing, make sure you're investing with money that you can afford, that you won't have to sell when you want to. Because if you're forced to sell, what does that mean? It means that you're selling at a horrible price. And I think that's what you should be looking at, is what can you afford to invest that you're not going to need tomorrow to make the mortgage or the car payment. I love gold. I think gold's going to make new highs this year. I think that
despite the higher interest rate environment,
it doesn't matter. Again, I think we put too much into it. There's too much anticipation by people into what means what when. And I think here's the big deal. When you look at the overall picture, the correlations work over time, but what is the right correlation? And we don't have that number. Gold itself, we may need gold as a currency. The fraudulent fiat currency market, which is controlled by the central banking system around the globe, continues to be backed by nothing. And of course, there's starting to be some fear that there's not going to be money use. We're seeing some people switch away from US dollars. So there's a lot of issues out there that could make gold and silver needed as a currency once again. And they look very strong, and they certainly look like they're going to push up towards, not silver so far, because silver's got much longer to go. But I think gold certainly prints new highs in 2023.
So over 2,000 an ounce.
Yes, ma'am. I think that you have to stay invested in the market. Listen, it's the only way that you can overcome the rate of inflation. Okay. I think that but again, I think it goes back to when you're investing, invest money. Like if you're going to buy gold, like I'll buy physical gold all the time, as you know. If you're going to buy it, make sure that you're not going to have to sell it. You have to invest in such a way that whatever you buy does not have to be sold tomorrow or next day, and that you have no intention of selling it, but you plan on holding it as an asset that's going to grow over time. If you're putting in money that you can't afford and you're going to be forced to sell, then really what you're doing is going to put yourself in a position to sell at the absolute worst possible time. I believe that markets will eventually recover. I believe that we're going to see a strong America again at some point. I just don't think it's coming anytime soon. I think our political system is so broken that we have major issues. And I can't imagine what they gave up or what he gave up to get that role as Speaker of the House. Every bill that goes out with something there that is not in the benefit of the American people, because of course government and the Federal Reserve only make debt. They don't make money. The taxpayers pay all the nonsense that goes on behind the scenes. And I'm sure there was not anything in our best interest that happened to get McCarthy to be Speaker of the House. And again, I say that our political system is broken. There is too many criminals on both sides of the aisle, no matter which side you support.